The other month, I was invited along to play some workshop maps with a friend. He said he enjoyed simply downloading maps that had been overlooked or ignored, and then would just walk about them, trying to figure out how they were developed and why the map maker chose to make them. I tried it and, sure enough, gained an appreciation for maps that would otherwise have been lost on the workshop forever. The one I'm making this video about probably won't be featured in CSGO anytime soon, but I hope that, by the end of this video, you too will appreciate it for the same reasons that I do. Kubada is a level designer from Poland. His first CSGO map ever was called Backside, released at the end of 2017. It took him just a week to get his second map, Fort, onto the workshop, which he then decorated and brought up to the kind of standards you'd expect from a competitive Counter-Strike source map. For his third map, he moved away from Diffuse and worked on a smaller 2v2 wingman layout, which he lovingly decorated and updated for almost half a year. He then branched out into other game modes, making a test map for the MP5 in just 20 minutes, and a collaboration with his classmate to produce a short co-op strike map called Co-op Awakening, which he said was for 2 Polish YouTubers. And indeed, just the other month they played through it on a video that now has over 100,000 views. But Kubada had already moved on to other things. He had returned to his first ever map, Backside, and had started work on a sequel. The origins of this map are hard to come by, just a few scraps of information during February. But early in March, he posted a dev build of the map on the workshop. But he wasn't done there. The description simply read, "Loading, data, coming soon." What was he up to behind closed doors? He started teasing of a detailed version, revealing what appeared to be a half-finished building in an urban environment. But it was difficult to learn anything more about it than that. He started posting cryptic tweets, showing snapshots of a map in increasingly elaborate detail. Another said, "Watch out for your heads," and showed a high-up walkway leading to a corrugated metal room. He posted an extremely dark image of what looked like a bomb site. And then a month later, this picture of a detailed outside area. And then, silence. His other projects got posted. History became legend. Legend became myth. Weeks turned into months. Had he forgotten about Backside too? Would the world ever see the sequel to Kubada's first map ever? Then, on June the 1st, he posted an overview of the map. It was to be for 2v2 Wingman, and was to be released in July. But then disaster struck. The following day, he lost the map file. He quietly posted that the map would be delayed by a month and that the situation was complicated. But 2 hours later, he posted again, having found an autosave file for the map. Backside 2 had been saved, and it was back on track to be released in July. The next day, he teased that he was playing on his new creation, then followed it up with a stylized screenshot a few days later. Then he took a break from his map's development to post about Cyberpunk for a while, which he seemed to be looking forward to quite a bit. I think we all are. And then he announced his roadmap. His second map, Fort, was to get a sequel in 2020. Yesterday was to be a completely new map collaboration of futuristic style to be released in the winter of 2019 sometime, possibly inspired by Cyberpunk. And Backside 2 got a release date, July the 1st, 2019. But would he be able to stick to his promise? A trailer was released for the map, and I've got to say it's one of the most exciting map trailers I've ever seen, even if it only teases about what the map is. I'll link to it in the description, but I really suggest checking it out. I'll just read out the description he's given it. The map is situated in Germany. No specific city has been named here. Time is ahead of us. It's 2023, a sunny afternoon in February 3rd. In 2023, a lot of things have happened. Many mistakes. Global warming has become a real thing in some countries. Just like in this map, Germany. Snow in winter barely even exist. The map is located around a factory. In these days, there are high new technologies. Any mistake can cause deaths of hundreds of thousands of nearby people. It happened. In January, the same year, terrorists messed up something in this area. The government promised they have secured the place and it's all safe. But one day, one of the hidden, extremely deadly toxins gets to the air of all the citizens and people working there. Since there, the place has been abandoned, making the city a ghost city, with no one living there. On the 3rd of February, the SWAT team gets a message about the terrorists striking yet again. Silently. You will stand as them or against them. What a story. If that doesn't make you want to play a map, then nothing will. But with his promised release day looming, would he be able to deliver on that deadline, or would the map fall prey to dreaded Valve time? June the 30th came around, the day before the storm, and he posted saying that the countdown has started. Then on July the 1st, 15 minutes. Then 10 minutes later, get ready, 5 minutes. And then it was released. But what's this? The link no longer works. I found the reason in a tweet he posted the following day, saying that he's re-released it with the name Surveillance, because it didn't get any attention on the workshop. I think you can agree that's really sad, but it didn't stop him from doing something about it. So let's check it out. Here it is. A bomb site surrounded by corridors leading to an outside ring around most of the map. My friend and I tested it with bots and it worked well, and also seems well suited to deathmatch. I like his use of height, the areas aren't just boring flat places, though I reckon he could have done even more to increase the verticality of this map. The numerous towers and balconies just tease at what could have been done with it. I do believe that maps are for playing, and as we were unable to test it with a full server of people, I will leave the judgment about how it plays here for now. Onto the graphics. The site itself is nicely detailed, half lit with warm orange lights, the other half from cold white lights. His strength is definitely in detailing what's up above the player. These aren't just boring square buildings. He lovingly crafts each structure to be unique in texture and in shape. The skyline is never a boring flat line, it's broken up with props, sticky out bits and distant chimneys. The corridors around the sites share a white painted theme. He's still using the default CSGO measure textures on the ground, but it actually goes quite nicely with the rest of the area, and he jumps between the white and the grey variants of them. It's littered with graffiti and vines, which really makes it feel like it's in a city that's long been abandoned. The carnage extends around the outskirts of the map. He makes good use of lights to cast pretty shadows across ridged props and normal mapped surfaces. We were really impressed with this section, feeling just like a worn down street of sorts, again featuring Kubada's trademark attention to detail on the buildings. As an example, when we explored this area, this support was wood, and we were questioning whether such a support would have been used there, but he was already on it, quickly updating the map to feature a metal one instead, though this one still remains a little bit questionable. Oh. Being mappers, we found some interesting things. You might think this building is strangely lit. What happened is that he must have added the vines, which would have turned the entire area behind them pitch black. Some props don't cast very good shadows in Source. You can disable shadows for props such as these, which I suggest he does in future. Maybe he didn't know about this, so instead he solved his problem by throwing lots of light at it to try and cancel out the darkness. This is the kind of imaginative botching that is all part of the learning process when you're doing something like mapping. You might not know the proper solution, but you come up with an imaginative fix using the tools that you do know how to use already. I love looking at how cube maps are used in a level. It can tell you interesting things about the mapper and how much they care about reflections. Reflective items use the images taken from the nearest cube map, so if you want accurate reflections on everything, you'll want to place a cube map next to every reflective item and surface in the game. But the downside is, more cube maps will also bloat the file size. Plus it can be distracting for the player to see their gun's reflections jumping between different cube maps, so in a way, fewer might actually be better. Where's the sweet spot? Most mappers use a single cube map in the middle of every room. This means that most reflections on things are slightly off if you stare at them hard enough, but they're generally good enough to look good enough. But Kubada likes his reflections to be accurate, so has placed a cube map next to pretty much every reflective prop in the level. That's totally his choice. Though he's also put them next to some unreflective props, which there is no need to do. In fact, I feel he may have overdone the cube map slightly. He has a very tidy 256 in his level. Train, a much larger map with more areas, has just 60. And here he's placed multiple cube maps next to the same prop. Props will only use one, and I think it's the one closest to the centre of them, so here I'd recommend deleting them all and just using a single one, which I've chosen to place closer to the middle of the corridor so it will better represent the player's position as they run past. It's good to see him taking clipping seriously. All of the stairs in this map are excellently smoothed out, as are most of the props and corners. Here he punches well above what I'd have expected. He's clipped this map pretty much up to a Valve standard. Another thing up to Valve standard is the radar. It's so well done, it's easy to take for granted the work that goes into this kind of element. He has imitated Valve's style and colours and has honestly put more work into this radar image than I have ever done with mine. Excellent work here too. This location is an enigma to me. It has enough detail to be a playable area of the map, and yet it isn't. But he's gone and placed a tall wall between the map and this spot, so players won't even be able to see all the effort that's gone into this location. I would flaunt this detail by turning the wall into a fence. You get a lot more detail for very little effort. And last is the lighting. This level is dark. What he's done here, you'll notice it on some of the walls, is that the sun is not coming from where it looks like it is in the sky. Something else this map has borrowed from Train. It's actually like a very late sunset, which is great if he's going for that sort of time of day. Judging from all the lights everywhere, maybe that's what he wanted. But if he does, I'd suggest replacing the skybox with something more representative of late evening, and perhaps changing the colours and brightnesses a bit to what I've done here. Alternatively, he could change the lighting to be in the middle of the day, like this. I think his lighting troubles might have come from him having more than one sun in the level. Only one will work, whereas he has somehow ended up with 4. To check how many of something you have in a level, simply go up to Map, Entity Report, and in this case we'll go to and delete the 3 sun lights that aren't needed. I have really enjoyed taking the time to explore and to learn about a map, randomly picked from the workshop, to learn about its maker, how he got to this point, and how he lovingly invested countless hours into a map and excitedly hyped it up before release. And I know he did this without expecting financial reward, or even the promise of publicity. Map makers like Kubada are proof that CSGO's community has the potential to be so creative and enthusiastic. I applaud him for finishing what he starts, which isn't easy, and I hope he continues to do what he's doing, because he's come a long way in a short period of time. I went through a similar stage when I first got into Counter-Strike Source over 15 years ago. I made stuff simply for the thrill of making it. I imagined how good it would be, and still remember my map making journey vividly. It doesn't last forever, so I hope that mappers like Kubada make the most of theirs while they still have that motivation. And of course, he is. A few days ago, he proudly announced the sequel to his co-op Awakening map. As he says himself, it's just the beginning.